All right. All right. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening from wherever you are watching this from. This is our monthly initiative at the International Solid Waste Association, African Regional Chapter. It's a monthly initiative of ISWA Africa called the Afro Eco Business Innovators Conversations. In this program, we talk about a lot of things. We discuss waste management. We'll try to prefer solutions that are peculiar to our client. And of course, we take actionable solutions, to provide actionable solutions, because we know that our problems are local, and solutions should also be local. As much as we think globally, we should act locally. So, because we're dealing with people in the grassroots, we can't replicate international models in Africa, for instance. If we must do, then that will all just guide us. But most importantly, we have to act local. We have to begin to look at, we have to begin to localize our challenges. We have to begin to look at how to provide solutions. We have to begin to tailor our designs, environmental technologies that will suit the challenges that are inherent to our clients, and so on and so forth. This cut across all facets of human endeavor, walks of life, in the waste management value chain, and environmental sustainability. I have with me this month, I caught a very big fish. I must say, a very problematic in global waste in the world over. I have Zoe with me as our guest this month. Good to have you, Zoe.
Lovely to be here, John. Thanks for inviting me.
Thank you very much. Thank you for your time. I would like you to introduce yourself
Sure.
to our audience.
Okay. Hi, everyone. Really nice to be here. So my name is Zoe Lenkovic. I have worked in waste management, the wonderful world of waste management now for 22 years, which makes me feel a little bit old. But I learn something new every day. And a lot of what I learn comes from people just like you who are facing the waste challenge where you live, every day, and trying to innovate and come up with solutions that work in your own place. Yeah, I really believe there's no blueprint for waste management. I think that with our own ingenuity and creativity and passion, we can all find solutions that work where we live. So yeah, I mean, I've worked in waste management a long time. Recently, I was the lead author for the United Nations Environment Programme's Global Waste Management Outlook. So for that report, we gathered a lot of data. We looked at how much waste is being generated in different regions of the world, because it varies a lot, mainly on our income level. So the more money we have, the more we buy, and the more we buy, the more waste we generate. So obviously some high income countries generating way, way, way too much waste, whereas in other places, people generate less waste, but maybe there's no waste management system for that waste to go into. And so it's causing a lot of pollution, right? We've got the air pollution from the open burning. We've got the marine plastic pollution that, is in the media a lot. And generally just making the places where we live unhealthy and not good places, especially for small children to grow up in. So as we look at, as countries' incomes are increasing and countries are developing, they're going to be generating more and more waste. So it's time that we really need to act now and get our systems in place so that as waste does increase, we're at least not allowing it to become pollution.
Mm-hmm. To ask now. Thank you for sharing. And you got an intimidating profile. Very great one. I like that. All right. Yeah. Thank you. So I'm going to ask you, on National Youth Day, there was a webinar around use summary of the waste management, the global waste management outlook. And if I'm not mistaken, we had it's a program that's creates a platform for us to showcase leadership in waste management. It talked about awareness on pollution crisis and actionable solutions to take. And you, for the benefits of people who were not able to attend the program, summarily, can you tell us on the take from such programs, what happened, what transpired in the program, and so on and so forth, in 5 minutes. Thank you.
Thanks, John. Yeah, great. So it was a real pleasure to turn this big United Nations report into something that's a lot more accessible for younger people. So we turned I think it was 70 pages into 20 pages, and we really focused on the important messages for youth, right? How can you influence waste generation and waste management where you live? So it's full of action points, ideas for how you can influence local policy, for example, by contacting your local municipality, or by getting involved, speaking to businesses and seeing how they might be able to reduce their waste. We also proposed a lot of ideas, which is an idea, something close to my heart, which is how young people can turn waste into livelihood opportunities. What enterprises could you create, that are going to give you a living whilst solving the waste problem in the place where you live? So I shared a number of examples in the report. I should say, for the report, I had the pleasure of working with the United Nations Environment Programme's Children and Youth Major Group. So this is a group of young volunteers who are involved with UNEP reports that, on all different kinds of topics. And they really helped us to make sure that what we were saying was definitely appropriate for this age group of mainly under 25s we were looking at. So when it comes to the enterprise ideas, I mean, there's all sorts of really cool things going on in different parts of the world. So we pulled out quite a few nice examples. I'll share a couple with you now, if you like.
Yeah,
okay.
Please do.
Great, thanks. So for example, one that I really like is called a sharing library. Okay, now we've all heard of libraries to borrow books, but how many of us have heard of a library where you can borrow toys or tools or even clothes, because there's a lot of the time, like, for example, does every home need a power drill? Right? How often are you actually going to need an electric tool like this? And they're not cheap, right? It's quite an investment to then be sitting in a box in case you need it, maybe, in a couple of years' time. So wouldn't it be better if there was a place in your town or village or city where you could go and just borrow the tool that you need? You pay a deposit, that's it. You take it home, you do the work that you need to do, and you bring it back. And then the next day, someone else can use it, right? So this way, we're reducing electric waste, because we don't need everybody to own their own power drill, right? We're reducing costs for everyone. We're making these tools that are really helpful accessible to more people. Okay, and it's more of it brings the community together. It helps start those conversations about what do we actually need? What resources are we using? Do we all need to be paying to own our own one of these, whatever it is, or could we share? So I really like that model because it encourages this sharing philosophy within communities, right? Another example, which is quite a different example, is it was designed in India to tackle the problem of these small sachets. These sachets that you can buy everything in now, from cleaning detergents, toothpaste, shampoo, even like alcoholic drinks now, I've heard. But when you've finished, when you've taken the product from the sachet, it becomes a waste immediately. And there's nowhere in the world that can recycle those sachets, Okay, the big companies that kind of not invented them, but yeah, that put a lot of them onto the market, they've tried working out how they can be recycled and given up. Okay, so they are a huge problem. They're particularly a problem for lower income communities. Why? Well, lower income people, they can't afford normally to buy, you know, a big bottle of the shampoo, for example. So they would buy the sachet, but the price that they buy the sachet for, it would be much cheaper to buy the bottle when you add it all up, right? So people in poverty are being, they're paying what's called the poverty premium to buy this sachet. They can't, I know they can't afford to buy the big one, but they pay more than their fair share buying little by little by little. So they're suffering once with that. Then they're suffering a second time because usually they will live in places where the waste collection is done by what's sometimes called the informal sector, or other times just by, you know, self-employed people that are picking the waste to sell for recycling. But those sachets can't be recycled. So what happens? They're left as litter. Okay, so poor income, low income communities, they have a lot more of this litter from the sachets because there's no point in collecting it. And then what happens is those sachets end up in the waterways. Now, lower income communities are also more likely to live alongside waterways. And when those waterways get blocked up with all this plastic waste, they flood, right? And these low income communities are also the most likely to be using pit latrines. And when they flood, then suddenly you've got a lot of human waste getting into people's homes, okay? And this is how diseases like cholera are spread. So it's a matter of human rights, yeah? Should we actually be using these sachets? Should we be selling these sachets? Can we come up with a better approach? Well, one company in India has come up with a better approach. They're called refillable, yeah? They're called refillable. They drive, you know, these little tuk-tuks, like tiny little trucks. They have them a lot in India. They have them in some African countries as well. So they put the products, not high-end expensive products, but the same products that people on lower incomes are going to be buying, yeah, like your basic detergent, your basic shampoo, whatever. They load that onto the truck, and then you can bring your own pot and you buy the same amount that you would buy in a sachet. Okay, so just what you can afford on the daily, but you brought your own pot, so there's no waste generated. Now they can sell those little mini refills at the same price that you would buy the sachet. So it, you know, in India it's very cheap, and it would be the same, you know, wherever you are, you know, the price of those sachets. So if you can buy your product at that price or lower, and you don't have the waste to deal with and the cost of that waste to your health and to your community's health, then that's a bonus, right? So it's quite unusual. Like we see a lot of these refill companies, they go for the higher end products because they're trying to appeal to the middle class, people that are more maybe environmentally conscious as a lifestyle choice. But for once, this company, Refillable, they've said, no, we're going into the slums and we're going to provide this product at an affordable price without the waste problem. And I just think it's genius. I absolutely love it. A lot of respect for that.
It's actually a lot of people closing the loop for waste, you know, and to keep everything, you know, around, not like it's without having to, even if I to do waste. We're not, because you talk about poverty premium in the low income communities, you talk about how to use your price and, you know, if you back of of when using it. These are choice, like choice lifestyle that are environmental friendly, and like that's where we used to talk about this some other time, and that's quite interesting. And this is one of ways of taking action, actual solutions. This we talking about. I was going to share with you mission policies, policies, and I want to speak about policies. reviewed with realities, emerging technologies to help us and design of technologies in that's what we are environmentally friendly. So this summary is, I would say, tiny, and it's very good for in a time like this. Thank you very much for sharing with us. I would ask you, what are you innovative or creative things innovations that are totally around waste management and environmental sustainability as you, within your sphere, in your community, sphere of influence, so what are the innovations actually innovative practices, solutions?
It's quite a bad connection, John. I'm struggling to hear your question, but I think we were going to talk next about the open burning of waste. Is that right? Is that what you were asking about?
Okay, yes, okay, yes, that might be opening of waste, definitely, because I saw
okay.
that.
Great,
I saw
thank you.
Super. Innovative, creativity and innovation of really talk about that. Yeah.
Okay, thanks. So I'm gonna talk to the, so this week we had the International Day of Clean Air, and to celebrate that, we ran a webinar talking about different projects and interventions to provide an alternative to open burning across Africa. Yeah, there's been an Africa-wide ministerial agreement to phase out open burning, but how do we actually achieve that? Well, you can only stop open burning when you've got waste management services available for people. I'll keep talking. I think we've lost John for a moment, but so how do we phase out open burning of waste? It's critical that we do phase it out, right? 40% of municipal waste that's generated around the world is currently dumped or burned, right? When we burn waste, it's so bad for our health, and it's particularly bad for women's health. Why women's health? Well, actually, women have more body fat on their bodies than men do. It's just natural. Women are about, I don't know, 28% body fat, and men are about 18% body fat. So women have this extra body fat so that we can, carry children and breastfeed, right? And our breasts are basically full of fat. And when you breastfeed your baby, you're actually feeding the baby the milk, which is also a fat, okay? Now, what happens is when we are when we're burning waste in the open, the emissions that come from the burning waste, they get into our bodies, and those pollutants actually accumulate in body fat, right? So this is why women are more vulnerable to the harms of open burning than men. It's because we've got more fat in our bodies. Okay, so those pollutants accumulate in the body fat, and they actually affect pretty much every biological system in our bodies, our digestive system, our breathing, our reproductive system, our nervous system, our brains, all of it is affected by this pollution. Now, that's adults that I've been talking about so far, but when we look at children, okay, children, babies in the womb, or, small infants right up until they're young adults, yeah, their bodies are still developing. So children are not mini adults. Children are very much still developing, so they are also much more vulnerable to this pollution. And the pollution from burning waste, again, it impacts the physical and the mental development of our children, okay? So now think about it. If your family has stopped burning its waste, but your neighbor is still burning theirs, that is going to affect your family. Or somebody across town, yeah, if the wind is blowing this way, it's gonna, it's potentially going to affect you. And in fact, some of the pollutants that are released from the open burning of waste, they can travel long distances across the world, right? So burning of waste in Africa could be affecting European children. Burning of waste in Europe could be affecting, I don't know, Asian children. You know, it's all, we share one global atmosphere. And when we're putting these pollutants into the atmosphere, it could be affecting anyone, anywhere. So we might think that open burning of waste is an issue for poor countries, but actually it's a global concern. Obviously, it also releases greenhouse gases that contribute to climate change, and that again affects all of us. Yeah, there isn't a part of the world that's not affected by climate change. So yeah, what can we do to stop open burning? We need to be collecting people's waste so they're not burning it in their backyard. Yeah, we need to be diverting as much waste from dump sites as we can, because dump sites are such dangerous places. Many of you will have seen it in the news 2 or 3 weeks ago. A big dump site in Uganda, in the capital city of Kampala, had an explosion, right? And more than 30 people lost their lives buried in the waste. Can you imagine that? Now, why did that explosion happen? It happened because there was a lot of organic waste disposed of at the dump site. And when that decomposes, it generates methane gas. Methane is very explosive, okay? Then you only need one lithium battery, like from a e-cigarette or from a mobile phone. These, once they get hot, they can explode, right? So you've got the spark, you've got the gas that's going to ignite and explode. And then also in the waste, in the dump site, you've got a lot of plastic, and that's just going to keep burning, right? So what we need to do really is to be diverting organic waste from dump sites. This goes into now what I know we're going to be talking about in a minute, which is, you know, young people's role in the waste sector, which is a really exciting topic. But I think just to finish off on the open burning, like it's hard to explain how bad it is for you. And I know that in every culture we burn something, right? Whether it's an offering to God, or if it's a bonfire, you know, people have been gathering around fires since the dawn of time. So it's quite hard to say to people, stop burning, but we just need to say, stop burning the waste, especially the plastics, because the chemicals that are given off are so harmful to the entire population. So we're still recording. So I think that John's reception is a little bit low. So but before we came on, we talked about what he wanted to ask me about, specifically for the audience here. And what we were going to move on to actually is the ISWA Congress that's coming up in a couple of weeks' time in Cape Town. Now, I'm really excited. I've been a member of the International Solid Waste Association for a long time, and this is the first time that they are holding their annual Congress on African soil. So I'm super, super excited to meet all of the African people who are going to be able to attend that normally wouldn't be able to get visas to travel to Europe, or last year it was in Singapore, not accessible places. So very exciting that we are going to all be meeting in Cape Town. And one of the most exciting things that's going to happen in Cape Town, in my opinion, is a workshop for young people. So the youth, you know, the youth group, the young professionals group, which is part of the International Solid Waste Association, they are hosting a workshop. What we're going to do at the workshop is we're going to talk through the facts and the recommendations from the youth version of the Global Waste Management Outlook. And then we're going to break into breakout groups and have a brainstorming session where we look specifically at how to unlock job creation for young people in waste management. Now, this is something that I feel very passionately about. In Europe, you know, waste management is kind of, it's handled in these big industrial facilities a lot of the time. So we minimize the number of people who are working in waste, and we use technology to kind of fix the problem. that might work for the European economy because labor is expensive, employment levels are already quite high, there's a good road network, so it's easy to drive waste to a centralized facility. But for most places in Africa, like the opposite is true. Yeah. So you've got high unemployment, labor is relatively cheap, and road networks are pretty poor. So that means that you don't really want to be spending a lot of money to drive waste to a centralized facility where they're probably going to have to queue up, you know the story. So I'm really passionate about having decentralized human waste management systems, right? People-centric waste management systems. These are the systems that maximize the job in the facility. It's not, I don't think it's the most sustainable or appropriate approach for waste management in most of Africa. What that means is there's lots and lots of job opportunities. So, for example, going back to the organic waste, right? In most places in Africa, if you look at the municipal waste arising, so the municipal waste is the waste from our homes, our markets, small businesses, that kind of thing, schools, whatever, then about 70% of that is food waste, organic waste. Okay, now that is higher than in Europe, not because people are wasting more food, although probably does more perish and more does perish because there's a lack of refrigeration. Hi, you're back, good.
Yes,
But sure,
it's fine.
I'll carry on, yeah.
Yes, please.
Thank you. So, yeah, we got a lot of food waste in the overall waste stream. Now, there's actually no reason at all why that food waste should be ending up at the dump site, potentially causing a big explosion and people losing their lives because of it. There's no reason at all because there's lots of different ways that we can recover the value from food waste and create jobs in the process. So there's four main ways that I can think of. The first is composting, and I'm sure we're all familiar with that. Yeah, it's great for
Yes.
soil health to return this organic matter back to agricultural soils. Of course, it needs to be collected separately. Don't be recovering organic waste from mixed waste because it'll be contaminated with goodness knows what. And there could be chemicals in there that you don't want getting into the human food chain through your farms. Okay. So you've got to collect the food waste separately. That's the golden rule with organic waste. Then you can turn it into compost, which is going to be really good for water retention in the soil because it's nice and fibrous. It's going to be good for the soil microbiology, which is, that's
Mm,
if you've got a healthy soil, then you can grow healthy plants. So that's
mm,
compost. Then there's biogas. Now there's some brilliant models that I tell you what, the company that won the World Biogas Association Award this year is called B Energy. And this is biogas without aid. And I encourage you to look them up online. So they encourage young people to become biogas entrepreneurs. Okay, and they've got a low cost system so you can start making your biogas and selling it to your neighbors and other customers
mm,
with using a biogas backpack. Super cool model. I encourage you to check it out. Then there's the black soldier fly larvae. Now I've seen this in a number of places and it's just brilliant. It's maggots, right, of a particular fly, and they will eat all the food waste you can give them pretty much. And they turn the
mm,
food waste into protein. Yeah, the maggots get big and fat and juicy. And when they're full, they wriggle themselves off very conveniently and can land in your bucket. And then you can feed them directly to chickens or fish or pigs. So wherever you have chicken farmers or aquaculture or any kind of, lots of different kinds of livestock will gladly eat this protein-rich food. They'll gobble it up. It's lovely. So we're keeping food in the food chain, which is a really, it's another golden rule, really, isn't it? Like, let's keep that goodness in the food chain. So there's less reason for people to go hungry. And then finally, there's also the charcoal briquettes. So the woody waste that maggots wouldn't eat. There it's quite easy. I've done it myself with hand tools. You can turn woody waste into these charcoal briquettes that when people use them in their homes, they produce almost no smoke, right? So if people are used to cooking on charcoal, it's a nice, easy replacement, low smoke, healthier for indoor air
Wow.
quality and another enterprise opportunity. So there's 4 business ideas from organic waste alone. And yeah, so we're going to be brainstorming all of that at the ISWA Congress, that and more, you know, these zero waste business models like refillable in India that I mentioned, or sharing libraries. And I'm really excited to see what ideas the young people come up with.
Come up with. Wow. So that's a conference to look forward to next month.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm
Great.
really, really
Great.
looking forward to meeting everyone there.
Most definitely. Great. Thank you so very much. Thank you for your time. Thank you. It's good to have you again. And I'm very sure that when next we call you after the conference, you would oblige us. Thank you
Of
for your
course.
time. Thank you
It's an
so
absolute
much. I know
pleasure, John. Thanks for the
you have a very
invitation.
busy schedule. Thank you. Thank you.
All right. Bye,
We
everyone.
appreciate it.
Thank you.
Bye. Thank
See
you.
ya. Bye.
Bye.